Continuing this series' expanded look at what the Age of the Ring mod provides in its factions, both those original to AOTR and expanded ones from vanilla ROTWK, it's worth noting up front again that these videos are not guides, merely faction highlights so you can see at a glance what some of the more interesting changes are, or all new features are. Needless to say, this is not an exhaustive demonstration or compendium of changes. Something important to note up front, though. In this series, sometimes you'll see oddities like abilities and powers instantly refreshing, or resource structures that produce insanely high resources. This is just a product of the mod's testing mode, which lets you change these values in-game for testing purposes, or demonstration purposes as in this series. So these changes should not be seen as accurately representing the mod and how it actually plays. Coming to the Elves, this quick overview won't be able to do the three AOTR Elven factions justice, but hopefully will give you enough of a sense of how each of these fully fledged Elven factions has its own identity in the Age of the Ring mod. Because I think easily the most overhauled faction from vanilla is the Elves. In vanilla, the few remaining Elven realms left in the Third Age of Middle-earth, that of Rivendell, Lothlorien, Mirkwood, and even Mithlond or the Grey Havens, are all thrown together as one big, strange, mixed identity, with maybe Rivendell standing out the most in its hero Elrond and Noldor warriors, or Mirkwood with its elite Tier 2 archers and heroes Thranduil and Legolas. While a strong faction to play, it's a bit of a jumbled faction when you think about it. For those who know Professor Tolkien's material well, all of this may seem a little strange to be together in one faction. From having only a single Lothlorien hero, Haldir, in its roster as an early game hero, to Lorien swordsmen mixed with horse archers of Lindon and even Ents, to Malorn trees for resources and mirrors of Galadriel as sources of healing, mixed with Rivendell towers, and strange imprisoned-looking Ents as fortress defenses, mixed with giant eagles and an eagle's nest, the faction kinda feels all over the place. But in AOTR, this single faction has appropriately been divided into three separate and complete factions to fully represent the Elven realms of Rivendell, Lothlorien, and the Woodland Realm. Mithlond, aka the Grey Havens, is nowhere represented except in one small instance, which I'll get to later. This is appropriate given that the realm of the Grey Havens at the end of the Third Age naturally was part of a quiet elven country, that of Lindon, the place where elves were leaving Middle-earth, and thus one of the few places of peace and serenity left unsullied by war or a call to it. The elves were leaving all that behind after all. So let's take a look at the first of the three elven factions, the Woodland Realm. This faction encompasses the wider regions of Mirkwood and Dorwinion, so this isn't just the realm of Legolas's father, Thranduil, in northern Mirkwood. As such, you get to utilize the Woodmen, which are only from the books, and as briefly shown earlier, the Beornings themselves, also only from the books. And a surprising addition in its unique spell book, the Eotheod, distantly related to the Rohirrim, who dwelled in the regions around the northern extremities of the Great River, again, only from the books. So there's a ton of love for the obscure things from the source material. None of these listed are any more than mere names, rarely even occurring in the books, so it's honestly quite lovely to see the developer's imagination run with so much to bring it all to life. All of this being said, the Woodland Realm faction is one of the richest and most diverse of all factions of the game, and certainly one of the most beautiful in its art, encapsulating the feel of it being of northern Mirkwood in autumn. Taking a moment to appreciate the art, like always, there's so much detail to take in. The treasury is where you get your unit upgrades, and the siege grounds is self-explanatory. The Beorning Lodge recruits your Woodmen and Beornings. Notice the orc heads posted at the entrance. The Royal Barracks is where you get your more advanced elven units. And the Hunting Lodge is one of the two resource structures, complete with an elf carving a little statue, maybe for a child. The heroic statue is not just a bland statue, it's of Thranduil's father, Orifer. And you've got the arrow tower, complete with the steps leading up to it. The well is a fountain of wine, befitting the elves' love for it from the books. You can often see a little bottle here and there at other structures. The cellar is like a dwarven mine, letting you teleport around the map. The Silvan clearing is where you recruit your basic units. And the vineyard is the other resource structure, complete with an elf harvesting the fine fruit. There is only a single banner for elven units in vanilla, and as for AOTR, there are only 3 banners. Now let's get to the main stuff. The Silvan clearing is your basic elven unit structure, housing Silvan archers and swordsmen along with spears and ranged cavalry. In terms of how the faction itself works, though, it has strong early game harassment, utilizing the Silvan or Wild Elves of Mirkwood as fast-moving spam units. This complements how the faction as a whole is designed around a lot of stealth or diversionary tactics and unusual ways of play, such as speed. What makes these units exceptional is their speed combined with their knockback resistance, making them much more resistant to cavalry than most other factions' early game units. The Silvan archers are your go-to archers in the early game and have a great stun ability. The Silvan dagger warriors are very fast light swordsmen, doing a small amount of persistent damage with every attack, making them tougher than the spam status might otherwise entail. The Silvan spearmen are typical early game spears apart from their special ability, though they do move faster than many. And the Silvan cavalry are only ranged cavalry, but again exceptionally nimble, perfect for kiting the enemy. The Royal Barracks is where you get your expensive Sindarin or Greenwood swordsmen, spears, anti-spam, and cavalry units. The Sindarin Elves, which are the elven units of the Woodland Realm proper, that of the cavernous realm of Thranduil and northern Mirkwood, are expensive but powerful mid to late game units that come in the form of very powerful archers, pikemen, swordsmen, and especially cavalry. Now compare all of this to vanilla. As mentioned earlier, vanilla's faction of the elves is a strange mix of all the different elven peoples, but its non-siege structures are predominantly of Rivendell design, the only exception being the Malorn trees as your resource structures, so the art appreciation will wait until the episode on Rivendell. The stables trains up your Tier 1 Rivendell Lancers and Tier 2 Horse Archers of Linden, a land which is supposed to be a peaceful land which borders on the Grey Havens, the last quiet refuge for the elves leaving Middle-earth. And the Entmoot naturally recruits your siege units of the Ents. From the barracks you get your Tier 1 Lothlorien swordsmen and archers along with your Tier 1 spearmen of the Grey Havens, and then there's your Tier 2 Mirkwood archers and the heroic unit of the Noldor warriors of the Last Alliance fame. All non-Mirkwood units will be covered in detail in the following episodes of this series. In vanilla, the only Mirkwood unit is that of the classic Mirkwood archers, some of the deadliest archers in the game. Notice the incredible range on these guys. They start firing long before the enemy can close the distance to begin their own volleys. They also have a much faster attack speed and do knockback. It's worth noting, by the way, that for fans of Vanilla's Mirkwood archers, you might be a little disappointed that they are nowhere to be found in this faction. However, one could argue they have been superseded by the faction's Greenwood archers, which may in fact be even deadlier.
Feeling.
In Age of the Ring, the Sindarin or Greenwood Swordmasters have a strong armor buff for themselves and nearby elven units of the faction, which can be repeated again and again for each of these units. And they have their own unique shield wall animation. The Sindarin Spear Slayers are anti-spam troops of a higher caliber than most. Able to increase attack speed, a rarity in the game, they can also increase damage per hit. Consequently, they are the bane of spam-heavy factions like Dol Guldur and Mordor, but they should be supplemented by the Swordmasters to tank damage given the lower armor. The Sindarin Hall Watchers are upper-tier spearmen who can tank damage quite well. They also buff out both Thranduil's and Legolas armor by up to 30%, buff armor of nearby structures, and can buff their own armor twice over. And the Sindarin Radiant Riders are the Tier 3 cavalry, packing quite the punch and have great speed and crush deceleration, letting them glide through enemies with ease. You can get discounts on both the basic Silvan Elves and Sindarin or Greenwood Elves from the Hunting Lodge and Vineyard respectively. This helps to accommodate whatever strategy you choose, either to go primarily for a spam or Silvan Elf strategy, or the tankier Greenwood Elves. Most people start with the former and steadily transition to the latter, though. As a bonus, the Hunting Lodge recruits unique units, the Faradir, who are hunters. These units are scouts while also gaining you resources per kill, so are great to mix in with archers and set traps. You can also position them outside creep layers to keep gaining resources until the lair is destroyed. The bounty value may not look like much, but it adds up throughout a match. These guys are great to help you afford your more expensive units. The Beorning Lodge recruits Woodmen and Beornings and a unique support unit, the Druids of the Oaken Order, as well as provides high resources from beekeeping. The Woodmen are another great early game unit as an alternative to the Elven spam units, being able to swap between axes for great structural damage and bows, and having hunting dogs as added protection. The faction also has unique support units called the Druids of the Oaken Order, which is an original AOTR creation. Learned wise men taught by Radagast the Brown himself, these men live amongst the vales of the great river Anduin. According to the Age of the Ring compendium, these men were taught the secret properties of common herbs, to read the weather of the world by the flight of birds, and to lay down white stones in patterns that would be known to the agents of the Dark Lord and cause fear in their hearts. These guys are pretty cool, able to buff and heal your troops and heroes with their diverse magic, and offer great synergy for an early game Woodman strategy and their ability to passively heal and buff them.
Enter within the sacred circle.
And the Beornings are a wonderful addition from the books. These are one of AOTR's new type of unit, the Elite Unit. While limited to only 3 for every battalion of them, they are some of the most powerful units in the game in terms of just raw power. Healing quickly outside of combat, and highly resistant arrows, they also get into an uncontrollable rage which increases their damage, speed, and armor, but cannot be controlled when in this rage. They do massive amounts of structural damage, so just 2 battalions of these guys can wreck even a well-defended base in no time. And these guys can be buffed by leaderships, spells, and so on. As mentioned earlier, the cellar door works like dwarven mines, but are limited to 4 on the battlefield. Producing a small amount of resources, they also come with a bonus summonable prison guard unit found nowhere else to help supplement a defense of the cellars. And the siege grounds produces your battering rams and ballistas, neither of which have any special abilities. And the last unit before we get to the heroes is the heroic unit called the Gilded Guard of Losgalla. Members of an ancient order of protectors from the earliest days of the Silvan Elves' habitation of Greenwood the Great, this heroic cavalry unit buffs out hero armor, damage, and speed, generates resources from kills for all nearby units, ignores enemy armor, and gains a massive speed and armor boost while being able to charge through enemy ranks virtually unscathed. Their ability to ignore enemy armor is perhaps the most devastating of all, though, as this means they can wipe out even the toughest heroes in no time. And an undefended base will also melt to these guys. The heroes are an interesting mix. From the Master of Wines to the Hobbit films Tauriel, Therin, Commander of the Kingsguard, Radagast the Brown Wizard, and Grimbeorn himself. Naturally, Thranduil and his son Legolas play a central role, but Thranduil is no longer the constantly stealthed super archer hero he is in vanilla.
I have failed.
Instead, he is now a mountable melee hero with a strong leadership, along with a fairly impressive mount. What's more is, he now has an incredible hero-killing potential, which only increases as he levels up, an ability which also grants him speed advantage to more easily pursue fleeing heroes, whilst boosting his own armor dramatically. He is also something of an army-destroying hero in his own right, having a couple abilities which do massive amounts of splash damage in a wide radius, which, if timed right with some of your spellbook powers while attacking with troops, can spell certain doom for wide swaths of the enemy. He also is the only source of armor upgrades for the faction, a unique take on armor upgrades in the game. Vanilla's Legolas can do great damage from afar, along with leveling up only archers, and he can temporarily enter into melee mode, but his ultimate power is Arrow Wind.
Since evil may
Legolas largely remains the same as vanilla, except now he can buff out your troops with leadership as well as give experience, and most devastating of all, can now completely ignore enemy armor like the Gilded Guard and can slow that target by 40%. Heroes stand no chance. Another fun ability has been added too. He can summon Gimli.
I shall wait. Henceforth I will call nothing over here. Unless it be her gift to me.
What was her gift?
Now, take them down!
My heart passes for battle. Asked her for one hair from her golden head. I gave me 3.
Trespassers!
Further, turn down the action if you don't mind.
I require your blade! They will not get past me.
Kill them all! Finally! Must always be running. Out of the way. Forward! This way! Follow me! How many will us wait?
In time, we too.
Other heroes in the faction consist of the early game Tauriel, who is vital for an early game Sylvan Elf strategy with diversionary abilities. She can increase speed of units for great ambushes, deals strong melee damage if she's in a pinch, and can teleport to any location to escape danger or scout around. Galleon, another early game hero and one of the Elven Vintners, is vital for healing your troops at any stage of the game. He can also transform your troops into glass cannons for powerful strikes on key targets and make enemies hostile to one another. And Farron, Thranduil's commander of the Kingsguard, and an invaluable support hero capable of increasing unit production, summons troops and more. Radagast the Brown is actually a very important hero to have in your roster. Amongst other abilities, he is able to stealth your units and has the unique power to constantly heal them as a passive ability at higher levels, while remaining stealthed himself as long as he remains still, so you can have an invisible source of healing with you at all times. Radagast is yet another great source of synergy with the Woodmen and the Druids, which means stacking 2 sources of healing on them, as well as his considerable leadership for only Woodmen and the powerful resistance to cavalry. It's an incredible duo when you want to rush your Woodmen and don't want to worry too much about not having spearmen with you. And if your enemies are at low enough health, he can transform them into animals. Grimbeorn, son of Beorn himself, provides leadership to the already powerful Beornings. He can deal splash damage, gain you resources while disrupting enemy eco, summon Beornings to guard a hero or structure, and can turn into a mighty bear just like his father. He even gets bonus damage against the Goblin faction hero Bolg, a great nod to the books.
You are mine.
They march against us.
The faction's spellbook appropriately reflects its unorthodox elven nature and gameplay, such as a magical artifact called a Waystone, which can teleport whole armies around the map. The spellbook also reflects the Hobbit book in some surprising ways. The magical feasts Thorin's company encounters in the forest, and how it disappeared and reappeared. It's a great nod to the book while also showing the strange magic of the Silvan Elves in the form of a fully functional faction power. Some other great examples include what amounts to a kind of weather power but is one of the most unique ones in the game. It dramatically decreases enemy vision and attack range, experience gain, and attack damage.
These are fresh tracks.
The 25 PP powers are some of the most unorthodox ones in the game too, not being comprised of massive army or base-destroying powers in the traditional sense. Rather, the one called the Great Hunt of Orome, a wonderful nod to one of the Valar themselves, temporarily grants all of your non-cavalry units on the map the ability to trample, buffs all cavalry on the map with a massive armor increase against spearmen, fully refreshes all heroes' abilities in the radius, while also dramatically decreasing enemy armor and damage in that radius. It may be the most versatile 25 PP power, good for all occasions. Watch here as I refresh all my heroes' devastating powers to finish off the enemy and then completely trample the tier 3 army with my weak early game troops on the other side of the map. And in case it wasn't clear, the substantial debuff does work on enemy heroes. And the other 25 PP power is just as unusual, the White Stag. Inspired by an extended scene in the Desolation of Smaug Extended Edition, a scene which in and of itself adapts a strange and brief part of the Hobbit book, the White Stag is interpreted as a magical creature of hope, warding off the darkness of Mirkwood. As such, it is a defensive power with tremendous potential. For one, all nearby enemy units are constantly in a state of fear, rendering them useless to fight back while your army is granted a whopping 300% increase in armor that even stacks with other leaderships and buffs. So stack this on an army with heroes having great leaderships right after being buffed with abilities and other powers, or you could just keep trampling the enemy with the stag whilst also sending them running while you keep firing on them with archers, and you will stomp the enemy. As a bonus, it's one of the only powers which grants full immunity to all magic and elemental damage, which completely nullifies big splash damage attacks of even powerful summons such as the Great Dragon Strike or the feared Balrog, making your enemy waste such powers if timed right. Check out more details on AOTR's magic protection, not found in vanilla at all, over in my video The Complete Guide to Attribute Modifiers. This about wraps up this video. The next episode will go deep into Rivendell, another one of the 3 elven factions to come from AOTR's overhaul of Vanilla's singular faction of the Elves. It has some of the most amazing features, especially for those who love the book, so don't miss it. In the meantime, if you haven't already, why not download this amazing mod? It's fast, free, and easy. Download link is in the description. I have a great installation guide on my channel here.